Peace and grand rising to the air. Today is October 14th, 1440 on the sun calendar, 1441 on the moon calendar, and 2020 on the Greco-Roman or Gregorian calendar. Empress Delilah is not present today. However, we are going to go ahead and talk about some of the things that are going on and some of the demonstrations that are coming up. And this is going to be highly interactive. So if there's any noise in your background, go ahead and star 6, and if not, we can go ahead and get started. Are there any demonstrations that are being done right now that you want to discuss? And we'll talk about some of the things that are going on earth-wide, actually. Any questions about any demonstrations or anything that you want to share at this time? Anyone? Okay.
Islam, I guess I just have one thing to say. I had a problem with my mail at the post office. They returned it, and I just went in and spoke with the lead postmaster that was there at the time, and I asked him what was wrong with my mails, the laboring and everything, because they had written a code on it. And he said, this is the first time I've seen this on a letter in 20 years. So he said, I think the people that you sent it to, they returned it, which was the postmaster, which was the provost marshal in Washington. And I said, well, how can that be? They work for us. And so anyway, he was talking to me. I could tell he was kind of lying, because I say, how can you prove that the Post Marshal General sent it back? And he couldn't tell me then. So I say, what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to keep you from getting in trouble, because I say I already have leaned this post office facility, and I say this facility belongs to the Moors, and that I had sent in an affidavit to the Postmaster General here, and they sent my mail back, and then I came in and I paid for it at the counter for the Postmaster General to receive it, and they returned it back. So long story short, I said the person that did that is in trouble, because they stopped that mail from reaching their superior in the capital of Jackson. So he kind of refrained from what he was saying. He said, well, let me go check and see that why they might have returned. But then anyway, when he came back, he said, well, the mail never did leave the facility, so it had to be someone here. Because I said, yeah, because I just put it in the mail last night, and I couldn't go to Washington, D.C. and back overnight. So I caught him in a lie. So that was and I just leave it like that. But anyway, so far I haven't had any more problems out of my mail since I've been going down there. Have been giving me a lot of problems at the post office and returning my mail and everything. So I think that's about straightened out now. So I just wanted that.
We're in the process of, we're going to have our own post office here. The first,
okay.
We know that all post offices belong to the heirs, the Moorish American Consulate and the Moorish National Republic federal government will be this location here. Just a moment. Hang on just a second. The Moorish American Consulate and the Moorish National Republic federal government will be, we're going to have a post office here at this location. And again, we're doing the demonstrations, and, you know, there's no handbook for the demonstrations that we do, per se, except the Akashic records and the law. And so we looked back through the history of the Moors, and then we looked back through the history of the United States Corporation Company and their usurpation efforts, which failed, by the way, because we're still here. And in looking back, I looked back at what Benjamin Franklin did and how they got started in terms of that whole process. And so we're going to announce, you know, we know that all Moors are the postmaster generals. We're going to announce that, you know, that we're going to have a postmaster general here, and that this is going to be the Moorish American it's actually the United States in all lowercase letters post office. And that is because we're the United States in all lowercase letters anyway, in red. And I have spoken with our teachers about that specifically. And that is correct. So we're going to make that announcement so that it is known that we do have the Moorish American Post Office. We've always had, the government has always been standing. We're just making pronouncements and proclamations and, you know, setting the law in place and actually affirming that the law is in place, because the law's always been in place. And so this location, this location is going to be, or this property is going to be the Moorish American Post Office. And we will actually, and it's actually the United States Post Office in all lowercase letters. And then we're going to start going through and decapitalizing, like we've done everything else, decapitalizing the movement of said mailings, our sovereign mailings, so that we're going to decapitalize any of the codes and statutes that they've been using and all of that, because we know that from the very beginning, we are the ones who set up the Universal Postal Union in all lowercase letters, and the United States Post Office in all lowercase letters, you know. And so we're just going to listen to the ancestors and what they have to say about that. You know, they've already spoken, and just allow them to lead us through this process. So I'm excited about it. There's no, you know, I'm excited. There's no,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's not like you can pick up the Moorish American manual and say, okay, this is what we're supposed to do on this day, and this is what we're supposed to do on this day, and this is what we're supposed to do on this day. So we're just going to do the demonstrations as led by the ancestors and just, you know, continue enforcing the law. Because even in the Constitution, it talks about the post office. And even though we're not under the Constitution, we are enforcing it. So things like gold-backed lawful coinage, that's something that we are enforcing, so we have to use it too. And we're working toward that direction as well. So, and also the Moorish, the United States Bank, the United States Treasury, and all of that, in all lowercase letters, in capitis diminution nolo. That's us too. And so we'll be making pronouncements and proclamations and announcements, and not announcements, even though that's still our word in all lowercase letters, over the coming days and weeks, months even, to that effect.
All right, praise Allah, praise Allah.
What have we got to lose? What have we got to lose?
Beautiful. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, our estate is not abandoned. That's the real meat and potatoes of the whole thing. That's the real issue, and that's the real proclamation. That's the real law. Our estate is not abandoned. We're here. All the heirs are here. We've not gone anywhere. We've been sitting right here the whole time. So we just have to continue moving in that direction and let the ancestors, I'm letting them do the rest, and they're doing it.
Praise Allah.
Empress,
I just got to say this a little bit. What's fixing to happen and what's happening now, God told me in 1978, when I first joined the church, that the United States, Great Britain, and Babylon was going to tumble down. I didn't know when and where, but just to live all these years since 1977, and I preached it. They let me preach once in the church in 2015, and to go up there and make a fool of myself. But when I got up there, the Lord just tossed the message that I had out, and I preached New World Order and the fall of Great Babylon, and I preached against every fraternity and sorority, whatever. Even I was a Mason at that time also, and my worship master, he was there, and I cut them all up. I didn't know what I was doing. I was in the spirit, but long story short, just to preach that and have the preacher come tell me it wasn't time for this, and 5 years later, here it is, coming to the end. So, I'm excited about it. So I'm just excited as you, because what God started in me in 78 is manifesting now to the end, to the fullest. So I just want to put that out there. So,
I was going to say, I already know that they did not let you preach again after telling that truth.
No, they were scared to let me pray. I had to ask them, can I pray? And I started praying. They stopped me from praying.
Oh, my goodness.
So I had to come out of that.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. I'm just telling you.
It was something else, because I was third degree Mason, and when the message was over, I was running behind my worship master because he was trying to get out of there. I'm so caught up in the spirit, I catch him. I say, "How you enjoy the message?" He said, "It was okay," and he took off. I didn't know what was going on.
Wow.
I was so in the spirit. So I'm just excited. I'm excited just to come this far. It's been a long journey for me, and he took me in and out of places that was Moors trying to put you back into slavery, but he took me in there and brought me out safely, so I would know. So I didn't get on right track until I found the counselor and tied to rebate. So that's when where all applies to me. But I done been through a few. I done traveled hundreds of miles just to go to the temple.
Wow.
So I'm thanking praise Allah. I don't want to take up too much time though, but I just wanted to throw that out there. Peace.
That is something else. That a lot of us I grew up in church, also. And
Yeah.
I'm finding that everything that they told us about us over there is actually true over here.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
When they, like, my father was a minister, and both my parents were ministers. And by the way, they were actually, their heart was in it. They were sincere about it
Mhm.
because they didn't know who they were.
Right.
They did not know who they were. They were very sincere about the church and about God and about all that they did, you know, and I honor them for the things that I learned while I was asleep, because now it actually made this transition to more science easier for me.
Right.
Simply
Right.
because I'm able to open to the spirit. I know what opening, because I was opening to the spirit based on what they taught me, but it was not, it was colonization covered spirit.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And
Right.
now it made it so much easier for me. And that's why, you know, the people who are in the church, the Moors who are in the church,
Mhm.
you know, that's why the prophet said what he said about some of the best Moors are still in the church.
Still in the church. Yes. Yes.
Because their spirit is already open. They just need the truth put in there, the unadulterated, unamalgamated truth put in there.
Right.
And once that truth center is hit, just like when Shalay Moore, my brother Shalay Moore, my other brother Sage, and I, when we first heard Grand Sheikh Taj Tariq, they, all three of us, at the same time, woke up.
Michael.
All three of us at the same time woke up.
Man.
Because spiritually we were ready for truth.
Yes, it was that
We had
time.
done the church thing, like all of our lives we had done the church thing. And, you know, the church piece.
Hey, Delilah, you're doing the same fucking bullshit?
The church piece proved helpful in terms of being able to open spiritually. But then after a while, you start looking around and you're like, something's missing.
Right.
Something is missing. But they're still telling you you're the chosen people and all of that. So, and something inside of you knows it's the truth.
Right. Right.
It's just that the daily application is not there. You try to apply the things you learned, you know, but the daily application was not there. When it came time to go to the 9 to 5s and dealing with other sleeping Moors, there was nothing that said, and we did as much as we could in terms of being, you know, loving our neighbor and being, you know, being good to people and all of that, you know, coming up. My mother taught us not to fight one another and all of that, so we couldn't do any of that stuff at all because we were Christians. And so that proved helpful and kept us from getting into a lot of stuff that we could have got into. But at the end of the day, as you get older, you start thinking, if there's, you know, if there's a God, I need to see who that is. If there's a God, I need to see who that is, because that's, you know, I need to know what's going on here.
Right.
Why am I here? Those were the thoughts that I was having, you know, beforehand. So, you know, and I'm sure many more have had that experience or are having it. It's why I'm welcome into Sabrina. Welcome.
And you just prompted me to say one more thing. When I joined the church, 1978, 18 years old, and one day I was getting ready to go in the church. And when I got in there, they said the Father, Son, the Holy Ghost when I was joining. And the thoughts came to me, what happened to the woman? And so what I find incredible, out the 40 years, even after I had preached in 2015 that the Great Babylon was unflawed and all of that, I didn't find out about
Is this the Welfare Mother show for Wednesday?
I didn't find out about the matriarch until 2016 or 17 that it fully came to my understanding that our God was a feminine God. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Out of all this time, God planted the seed in me in 78, and I found out in, I think it was 2017, that this is matriarch.
Mm-hmm. Islam. I was just reading, it was actually good to hear nobles who know that it is we are a matriarchal nation. It's good to hear nobles say that, because, you know, not Christianity, but and that's Christianity in all lowercase letters, but uppercase Christianity. And colonization is what, just as well, and there's a little bit of stuff going on in your background there. The Christianity and all of that taught us the patriarchy. And it started with the Pope, but then it went all the way down to the household, where patriarchy, you know, and we love our men and our nobles. We absolutely love and honor them. They come from us. You know, you all come from us, and you are highly honored and highly
Pauline, you're a fucking liar.
Revered as well. And so, you know, however, we know that Allah is feminine. That is feminine energy. Allah being all law. And so that in and of itself is always an honor to hear the nobles who know that, you know, our Grand Chief Taj Tariq Bey was actually the first one that I heard say that it's about the matriarchy. And he said that when the matriarchs get it, then it's a wrap. Everyone's going to get it. That's what he said. And when I heard him say that, I was like, it's just interesting to hear a male say that, a noble say that. I don't even want to say male because that has other connotations, but to hear a noble say that. You know, so I don't know about anyone else, but in Christianity growing up, it started out one way, it ended up a totally different way. When I was really young, we couldn't wear pants. The girls could not wear pants. We couldn't wear earrings. We couldn't wear jewelry. We couldn't wear makeup or anything like that. And my parents were of the mindset that was restricting, and they did not want us to grow up that way. And so things kept morphing and changing, and then we moved a couple of times to different places, and then we moved to Alabama territory when I was 8 years old, and the church thing started there as well. No pants, no makeup, and my parents were like, no, we don't want that for our children. And so they started their own church. And the name of the church is Freedom Life. So their thoughts were they wanted us to be free. So they were their hearts were in it. They wanted us to be free. And when they started their church, we were able to wear pants and makeup and things like that, and earrings and things, and, dress modestly as well. And then we were able to get on to, like, you know, participate in things in school, you know, and all of that. But still with the most sincerity at that time. But then, you know, after a while, you start looking around as you get older and you start saying, there's got to be something more. There has to be something more. I know I'm not sent here just for this and just to do that, you know. And I believe the ancestors put that in us. It's a divine urge. I believe the ancestors put that in us to keep seeking until it's time for us to wake up. And when it's time for us to wake up, you know, we just do. We wake up. There's a spell that will be broken by something we hear. And I will say that Grand Sheikh Taj Tariq Bey broke the spell, that sleeping spell, you know. So high honors, we honor him as one of our great teachers as well. And he doesn't like to have all of that said, but that's our truth. And so he broke the spell for me and my two brothers. And slowly but surely there are other, because I have 6 brothers and I have 2 sisters. And slowly but surely the spell on my other family members is starting to lift, you know, because they're seeing that system is not, you know, it's not being nice to people. And nice is not the right word, but it's not what they keep saying it is, you know. It never was. That corporate status has nothing to do with us. And so, you know, that is, the longer we continue to govern here on the land, the more we're going to see that whole thing continue to be what it's already done. It's a wrap on that whole system. So, are there any other questions or comments or demonstrations that you're having, that you're doing, that you that you want to talk about? Okay. We at any time, if you want to say something, go ahead and star 6. We were going to read chapter 1 of the Holy Koran of the Moorish Holy Science in
What's up, motherfuckers?
Letters. Excuse that for those who are not accustomed to the Albions coming into the meeting and being disruptive. That's what that is. They have a problem with what we're doing. and they behave like children, you know, when they have that sort of a problem. And we forgive them already. We forgive them in advance. We love them, but they cannot stay in here. So, because this meeting is actually for adults, and not adults, but for sovereign heirs. It's not for Albion. So, chapter 1, the creation and fall of man. Time never was when man was not. If life of man at any time began, a time would come when it would end. Those 2 sentences alone changed my life with regard to more science and with who we are. There never was a time when we were not, as opposed, and it's not as opposed to, that's just a fact. And with those who we created, which is the hybrid Albion, modern European, We created them, and there was a time when they were not. So there will be a time when they're not once again. Further in chapter 1, the thoughts of Allah cannot be circumscribed. No finite mind can comprehend things infinite. All finite things are subject unto change. All finite things will cease to be, because there was a time when they were not. For some, it's a tough pill to swallow to hear that about, about our creation. But any creation, anything that we created that is finite will cease to be, because there was a time when they were not. That doesn't mean that we don't love our creation. It just means that that is a cycle of creation. I'll read further. The bodies and the souls of men are finite things, and they will change. Yea, from the finite point of view, the time will come when they will be no more. But man himself is not the body nor the soul. He is a spirit and a part of Allah, or Allah. Creative fate gave to man, to spirit man, a soul that he might function on the plane of soul. Gave him a body of flesh that he might function on the plane of things made manifest. Why did creative fate give to man? Why did creative fate give to spirit man a soul that he might function on the plane of soul? Why did creative fate give to soul a body of flesh that he might function on the plane of things that are made manifest? Hear now, ye cherubim, ye seraphim, ye angels of men, ye angels and ye men. Hear now, O protoplast, and earth, and plant, and beast. Hear now, ye creeping things of earth, ye fish that swim, ye birds that fly. Hear now, ye winds that blow, ye thunders, and ye lightnings of the sky. Hear now, ye spirits of the fire, of water, earth, and air. Hear now, O everything that is, or was, or ever will be, for wisdom speaks from out the highest plane of spirit life. Man is a thought of Allah. All things of Allah are infinite. All things of Allah are infinite. That's us. All things of Allah are infinite. They are not measured up by time, for the things that are concerned with time begin and end. The thoughts of Allah are the everlasting of the past unto the never-ending days to come, and so is man, the spirit man. But man, like every other thought of Allah, was but a seed that held within itself the potencies of Allah, just as the seed of any plant of earth holds deep within itself the attributes of every part of that special plant. So spirit man is as seed of Allah, held deep within himself the attributes of every part of Allah. And I want to stop right there for just a moment to point out about us, because we are learning so much more about who we are in terms of our existence here at America, and how that translates into our demonstration. When you think about us being infinite, and about us having always been here, then there's no United States Corporation Company citizen that can ever change that. They can't change that. So allow that energy to transfer over into our demonstrations. Okay, if we allow that energy and that knowing to transfer into our demonstrations, then when we do the demonstrations, number one, we will be peaceful because we know we're not going anywhere. And number two, that energy is going to transfer over to those who are temporary. Policy enforcers are temporary. For all of us, they're temporary. They only exist for as long as in our minds we feel that they have some authority, but after that they don't exist anymore. And then we just tell them. We command them to go back from whence they came. And I'm actually speaking to me first with regard to what is our knowing about us and what is our truth. Because as you all, as I've stated previously in meetings previously, the policy enforcers came here 3 weeks in a row, knocking, attempting to disrupt energies and attempting to cast whatever spell, etc. That was the attempt, but it did not work. But I went through a lot in my mind about that when it happened in 2000, and I believe it was 2019 that happened, the end of 2019, where they came here 3 weeks in a row knocking on the door, hoping to contract. Because if they can contract, then they can stop what we're doing, even temporarily. But since they have no contract, we have no contracts with them. They cannot stop what we're doing. So then we elevate. And contracting with any corporation can mean just talking to them on the phone or talking to them through the door. And that's in addition to signing any documents. But our nationality supersedes anything that they can do, anything that they say, anything that they do. Our nationality alone supersedes all of that because our authority is in our bloodline and it's sovereign tied to the land. We're already part and parcel of the earth and the land, and as it states here in the Holy Koran, part and parcel of Allah. And as part of Allah, who is it? Even in the Bibliotheliotech, which was hypothecated by the Albion, foreign colonizing commercial mercenaries. If Allah be for us, who can be against us? No one. I'll say that again because they hypothecated it. But if Allah, which is all law, be for us, who can be against us? Allah, arm, leg, arm, head. That's Allah, which is you and I. If Allah be for us, who can be against us? No one. No one ever. And that's nunc pro tunc. No one includes agents, principals, heirs, assigns, any derivatives thereof. No one. Regardless of the spells that they attempt to cast, no one can be against us. There's no such thing And that's why every now and then you'll hear me say that we have no enemies, because we don't. No one can be against us, because we are Allah, made manifest in the flesh. So as we move about and continue standing and governing in these times that are so awesome, we know we are the law and we are the government. It is time now for us to actually manifest on this plane as such, and to do so competently and peacefully. So those are just some things to keep in mind as we continue to move forward in all that we do with regard to these demonstrations that we're doing. And also, before we even go into the demonstrations, it's good to do some meditation along those lines as necessary. And channel as much, bring forth out of you as much, or as out of us as much peace and as much sincerity as we have within us, which is a lot. A lot, a whole lot. Now, one thing I do know about this also is that when you talk about seeds, the seed is actually, because we are the seed of Allah. A seed means that we're going to continue growing and growing and growing into more of Allah, or all law. And that's pretty powerful, because a seed can never stop growing if we say, okay, we are infinite. That means the seed is going to grow and grow and grow. So as we continue to stand as government, because we are the government, we are the law, it's important to know that that this is not something that we can just per se quit and go back to citizen status, because we were never citizens in the first place. I know that sometimes when Moors come, when Moors first wake up, and sometimes it can be that they've been awake for a while, we get really excited about things, but then the first time someone says something that hurts our feelings or whatever, either we get mad and blow up, or we quit. We quit, or we think we quit. And it's going to be important as we proceed to not allow our energy frequency to be interrupted, our ancestral connection to be interrupted, even by the things that we say and do among each other. There's something known as Leviathan, a Leviathan spirit that will corrupt communication every now and then. And it was previously doing that. It doesn't do that now for us, with the exception of the Albions that come in. They're attempting to disrupt communication, which they never do. They can never corrupt our communication. But sometimes, if one of us doesn't get an email that the rest of us got, that one will start to feel that it was personal against them. And I think it's important that we, and I'm speaking to myself first, and then to all of us, it's important that we give our brothers and sisters the benefit of the doubt. Every chance we get, give one another the benefit of the doubt. We're not accustomed to operating on that level, because when we were asleep, the Negro, Black, Colored, and African American label that was unlawfully placed on us had us going against each other and doing things maliciously and with malicious intent on those JOBs. Excluding people, putting people down, grouping up against one another, while Albion foreign colonizers sit in the background and laugh. I think it's important to bring all of that out and say, we're not doing that here. And then if something happens where there is an interruption or a miscommunication of some kind, go to our brother and sister and say, this happened, what's going on? But clear energies first before we go to one another, so that we go with a spirit of openness and open-mindedness in terms of wanting to hear from our brother and sister what was going on. That's going to be important as we move forward. And the reason I say that is because, you know, if you get your feelings hurt really easily, then it's going to disrupt your energy and it's going to disrupt your growth as government. I'm watching these Albion foreigners who our prophet said they were going to be here long enough to teach us how to govern. And I'm looking at how they talk about one another and stab one another in the back and dog each other out. And the next day they're up doing a press conference together. You know, they're up doing a press conference together and laughing and hee-hawing and playing golf. And then us being the true government, one missed email or one oversight where one of us didn't get invited to a meeting or something, and we want to quit. We're stronger than that. We're better than that. We're more than that. We have to be more than that, or else the Albion take back over. They are, you know, or pretend to take back over, because they really haven't taken over. They can't do anything without our consent, and we do not consent to them and to that and to what they do. We're the government. We're the law. And if feelings get hurt really easily, know that about yourself. We all need to know that. And when our feelings get hurt, we need to recognize that, okay, my feelings are hurt by that, but I'm not going to take that out on my brothers and sisters. I'm going to deal with me. And as a nation, there's a lot of room for us to assist each other in dealing with ourselves that way.
Hey, Lorraine, Jeanette.
There is a lot of room. We're going to have a lot of opportunities for growth there. Because this is not about feelings and beliefs, but we love one another and we consider one another's feelings and beliefs. We consider that. We consider it. It is a consideration so that we don't leave a bunch of carnage in our wake, you know, in our awakening as we wake up. We want to consider one another's feelings. I've just noticed lately that there are some, you know, we're coming into this with colonial baggage. that needs to be dealt with as a nation. That's the only way continuity of government happens, is when we deal with the baggage, whatever that baggage is. For some of us, the baggage is we get our feelings hurt really easily and we take everything personally, when it's not even meant that way. And in some cases, it might be meant that way because someone else is hurt too. But if we let that keep us from governing our vast estate, then who's governing the estate? Who's doing that? Sometimes we get really, really sensitive over here, but when we were on those jobs, some of us were hell on wheels. We gave the Albions a run for their money, and they could talk trash and fire you and all of that, and we would still be, okay with all that they were doing and stay on the job and be determined to come back the next day. We have to be as determined to govern right now as we were then. This is where it's most important. Look at those Albion, foreign Christian colonizing commercial mercenaries that were formerly doing business in Washington, D.C., pretending to be government. I say formerly because they're not there anymore and they're not pretending to be government over anybody. We're the government. But look at them. Look how they act. Sleeping around with each other's wives and all of that. 3 and 4 wives. And still the next day up doing a press conference, standing there together. And we don't condone that type of behavior. But look at what all they do, but they are determined to govern our, attempt to appear to govern our vast estate. They want to be us. At what point are we going to, and that point is now, we're there already. We're already there where we are standing together and we have to stay standing together. Yes, feelings are going to get hurt sometimes. Mine have been hurt sometimes. Yours have, I'm sure, too. Because we're all here together. So we got to toughen up. We got to toughen up and stand up. Continue to stand up. We got to toughen up, and then we got to give one another the benefit of the doubt. Because I've seen too many Moors come in, and as soon as they get their feelings hurt, every little thing, they're sensitive about everything. And we honor that they're sensitive in their spirit. We honor that. But it cannot be to our detriment. It cannot be to our detriment. We have empresses. I'll speak first directly to the empresses. That colonization piece, they meant for us to stay at each other's throats so that we would never wake up and work together and be unified. They taught us some things out there and we saw some things, and then we taught one another some things out there in our group that we wouldn't wish on our worst enemy when it comes to our sisters. And some even have that going on in the kinship line, brothers and sisters that are just evil towards one another. And then we bring that over here, and we don't do the energy clearing and the spiritual part of it, because that's the most important part. So that the sincerity can manifest. We have to do the energy work on the inside so that when we deal with our brothers and sisters and there's some type of a oversight or a mishap, that we don't get so sensitive and start having our focus be put on our sister in a way that's not productive for our government. And some might think, well, you're saying things that we don't, that's not going to help us in our demonstration. Oh, yes, it is. Because we need one another as we continue to stand. We need one another. And there's no one else that's going to assist the sovereign heirs but us assisting each other. And we're now moving into the areas where we're reaching out to other nations that are original and indigenous to the land, as well as aboriginal to the land. And if we cannot get along and actually give to one another the benefit of the doubt, how are we supposed to do universal commerce with other nations? How? We won't make it if we don't grow in this area. But we will make it. It's already a wrap. We already made it. Look what we made it through. We made it through a long time of sleep. So we're making it. It's a wrap, and we're doing better than making it. We're thriving. We are thriving as a nation, but we have to grow past the feelings and then honor the feelings among each other. Honor the feelings among each other, and then when it comes to the negative feelings, they're there. We cannot not acknowledge them. We're not going to ignore them, but we're going to grow past them and give one another invitations to treat with one another. And when we talk about invitations to treat, we were having a meeting yesterday, and we were discussing how best to reach out to other nations, because we're there now. We stand. And so an invitation to treat with other nations, other sovereign, original, indigenous nations, is the order of the day as well. Those who are Moors. And immediately, the opportunity to treat with one another came up, where something would happen and there is a misunderstanding or a miscommunication, or sometimes sometimes in our day-to-day demonstrations and things that we're doing with our brothers and sisters, there is, some who come in and, or if we're having a bad day, we'll say some things and snap off at one another. And then it's a wrap. It's over. They're ready to go back to citizen status. We can't do that. We still have to govern. Through all of that, we have to govern, and we have to do it with love first for one another. And we have to look at the astrology and the cosmology of it as well, looking at the signs, and I'm so glad that that's a part of what we do. But we can't even use our sign as an excuse to run over each other or to not say anything, because that's just as, non-productive if you are being run over and you don't say something. And then you just shirk off to the side quietly with your feelings hurt. And you did not summon the boldness to say, hey, this hurts my feelings. To pull your brothers and sisters to the side and say, hey, I need to, this is an invitation to treat with you. Let's treat together. Treat means several things, because we talk about treaties all the time, and that's going to be very important. Treaties are important because we first have to treat with one another. Treat meaning even if there is some injury, the injury needs to be treated with one another. Not with false accusations and things like that, but hey, what's going on? sis, this happened, and, you know, it did kind of hurt my feelings, and how do we deal with that? Let's talk about it. That might sound elementary to some, but to the ones who discount that and say, oh, that's elementary, we can do that, they're the main ones who you know, have the issues and get their feelings hurt, and then you don't hear from them for 6 months. And emphasis, this is, like Justice Welton was saying at the beginning of this sharing session, this is a matriarchal nation, a government. This is matriarchal. We have to continue governing in love. We have to. And if it's one thing I learned from watching my parents, as well as, you know, I learn from all sources. It doesn't matter what the source is. I can learn from it. One thing I learned is that when you're having issues with other Moors, if you have not pulled them to the side or called them on the phone and said, hey, you know, what happened here? This happened or that happened. If you have not done that, then it's not a good idea. It's not appropriate to walk around mad and not speaking and all of that. It's not a good idea. That's not the best way for us to govern. Because even though they may have done something that you didn't like, you didn't speak to them directly. And say, because 9 times out of 10, they didn't even realize that they did it. Or if they did it, and it was even purposeful, it's still incumbent upon us to say something about it. And not go away and stay away mad. So the responsibility to maintain our oneness is on all of us at all times. It's on all of us at all times. It's not on just one of us. And there are some who are coming in from colonization who come in reckless. And if they come in reckless and they meet with a bunch of reckless, then they, you know, it makes things a lot more difficult for the nation as a whole. We cannot govern that way. The things we see the Albions doing, we can't do that. We actually have to love one another, and it has to manifest with sincerity. The Albions did not teach us how to do that. They didn't. Most of the time we learned that straight from our parents, how to really love one another in some cases. And in other cases, it was just the opposite. So we're all coming with different levels of manifestation. There are some who come with, you know, they've been rejected all their lives. And the minute something happens, they feel rejected again, and they just they just spew a bunch of that rejection out onto others. And to them, they think they're being strong because they've been rejected their whole lives. They think they're being strong by spewing rejection back at people. And as it turns out, it would be just a missed email, a miscommunication, an oversight or something like that. But they are looking at it and taking it very personally and feeling like they are going to spew rejection on everybody around them. We actually have to be patient with them and ask their patience in return. And then we have to be aware of self. That's a part of knowing self. When we know ourselves, the minute we feel something like some negative feeling towards our brothers and sisters, the first place we should be looking is within. To see, am I taking this too personally? Which I would venture to say a lot of times it is. We just take things too personally. You know, a lot of times we do. And then a lot of times it's genuine hurt. You know, each one of us is different in how we receive things and the things that we hear and the things that we experience. We're different in how we do that. Our perception has been colonized, and now we're coming out of that. And it's important as we come out of that to know it. To know that, okay, I've been, you know, we had some programming put in us, and so did the person, or the more, I'm sorry, not the person, but the more who I'm looking at and I'm angry with them, or I'm looking at them like, you know, I'm writing them off, or thinking in my mind that they're stupid. You know, we have to first look within and say, why am I feeling that way about my brother or sister? Why am I feeling that way? Is it something that I need to, you know, pick up the phone and talk to them about? But looking within first and making sure that by the time we reach the phone to pick it up to call them, that we've cleared any energy that might cause the conversation to escalate. One thing I love about our Grand Sheikh Taj Tariq Bey is that whenever you have a question about someone, you know, he won't even let the question come out of your mouth before he'll say, pick up the phone and call him. Call him. And it just dawned on me this week, and I knew it because I've said it before, but it came back into my awareness, in the forefront of my awareness rather, that the reason that we're encouraged to pick up the phone and call is because energies transfer over the phone. Our energy is so strong that it transfers even over the phone. Where we can be talking to one of the Moors and we're both excited about something, or one of the Moors will pick up the phone and call and they're excited about something, and even though I just woke up or something, I get excited with them to the point where I can't sleep anymore. You know, because the energy has transferred or been shared rather. Because it hasn't left them, it's just been shared. The same thing goes for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. When we pick up the phone and call one another with love in our hearts, that love is going to transfer even if we are mad or upset. Because the plane that we're on, being mad and upset, happens sometimes. But we have to keep continuity of government in mind while we work through those issues. Government does not stop just because we're angry with one another. And our responsibility to govern does not go away just because we're mad at whomever or a bunch of whomevers. As we do this work, we have, you know, there are some who are upset with the consulate. And in their minds, they just see the consulate. So anyone who says consulate, they're like, you know, upset. They get upset about that. because they have a broad brush on the emotions. But we know from just being on this plane that we're on that generalizations are not always, that's never actually the way to do anything, to paint everyone with a broad brush. Because we don't do that to those Albions a lot of times. Every Albion that comes along, they give that Albion the benefit of the doubt, and they believe everything they say until they find out the Albion's been lying, or the colonizer has been lying. Just like with the United States Corporation Company. To this day, people still think that voting is going to change the colonization effort. All this time, nothing has gotten better. Uh-oh. Okay. Can you all hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
I can hear you.
All this time, thank you, Justice Wilson. All this time, it's been hundreds of years. And the colonizers have been, nothing has changed. In fact, it's gotten worse with them. And people are still going out there, getting out the vote. You know, we don't vote in their fraud. We don't do that. We don't vote in their fraud. You know, we don't vote in their fraud because we already know that it's fraud. And then they have it wide open, there's fraud. But we still give them the benefit of the doubt, and everyone gets ready to go and cast their vote. But then we wake up on this side, on the awakened side, and we're so sensitive that someone can be telling the truth, and if they don't say it the way we want them to say it, then we don't want anything to do with Moorish science or the consulate or the Moors or whatever, you know. And that's just, that's going to require some knowing self, some knowledge of self to get over that. It's going to require that.
Islam. Emphasis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was beautiful, the way you've been explaining something. It just prompted me, if I could, read something from the Quran or relate to what you've been saying. It's chapter 30. It said, when thou consider thy wants, when thou behold thy imperfection, knowledge is goodness, O son of humanity, who honors thee with humanity, endow thee with speech, and place thee in society to receive and confer reciprocal help and mutual obligation, protection from injury, thy enjoyment of the comfort and the pleasure of life. All these thou owe to thy assistance to others, and should not enjoy but in the band of society. It is thy duty, therefore, to be a friend to mankind, as it is thy interest that man should be friendly to you. As the rose breathes sweetness from its own nature, so the hearts of a benevolent man produce good works. He enjoys the ease and the tranquility of his own breast, and rejoices in the happiness and prosperity of his neighbors. He opens not his ear unto slander. The fault and failing of man gives a pain to his heart. His desire is to do good, and he researches out the occasion thereof. and removing the oppression of others, he relieves himself. For the largeness of his mind, he comprehends for the largeness of his mind, he comprehends in his wishes the happiness of all men. And from the generosity of his heart, he endeavors to promote it. I just thought that was befitting, because when you love, you're gonna have to love is suffering. Suffering comes with love. So
wow.
I just wanted to share that with you, because you've been bringing it out so beautifully and everything. And I guess one other thought, we got to learn how to think like what we are. We are gods. Can God afford to act that way? I yield.
Islam. That's beautiful. It says here, and I'll just read it again. It says, when thou considerest thy wants, when thou beholdest thy imperfection, acknowledge his goodness, O Son of humanity, who honored thee with humanity, endued thee with speech, and placed thee in society to refer and confer reciprocal helps and mutual obligations, protection from the injury, thy enjoyment of the comforts and the pleasure of life. Protection from injury is sometimes, I've heard people say things about, other Moors and saying, oh, that Moor is injuring other Moors. Well, if we look at chapter 30, where does protection from injuries come? Where does protection from injuries come? Where does that come from? It says it right here in chapter 30 of the Holy Koran of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, unincorporated. It says it right there. That doesn't come from outside of us. It talks right here about reciprocal helps and mutual obligations. Helping one another. And mutual obligation is, even though it's not, even though we've been colonized, we still have a mutual obligation to honor one another. Whereas, where when we've been hurt, we have an obligation to go directly to one another, as opposed to going to everybody else and complaining everywhere else. Go to one another in love, not ready to fight, but in love. Not ready for an argument with your dukes up, ready to go. But in love, after, it's pretty much a rule, just within my own life, to calm down before I pick up the phone and call someone who may not even realize what they did. But then again, I'm a Leo. So we have to keep that in mind. Leos are, especially matriarchal Leos. We are mission-driven. Mission-driven. And being mission-driven means that we will do whatever it takes to get the mission accomplished. And in some cases, people get their feelings hurt while we're doing that, because we're moving quickly to get things done. Okay. And as we're moving quickly to get things done, sometimes we don't realize we hurt people's feelings. And if they don't say anything and they just disappear, and you don't know, you don't know anything has happened, you just know they disappeared, then when they do resurface, you're like, wow, it's great to see you. Where have you been? And all in their minds, they're thinking, you know exactly what happened. You know exactly what happened, et cetera, et cetera. And Leos, we're thinking, why are they acting funny? Why are they acting funny? But then we Leos, we just keep trucking, and we say, okay, well, when they're ready, we'll be here. When they're ready, we're good. We'll be here. Maybe they are not feeling well today. Maybe they're, maybe they're having issues at home. I don't know. And then we get right back to the mission. It's not our intent to hurt anyone's feelings. Never our intent to do that. It's never our intention to do that. But sometimes that happens. Whereas other signs, I know some of you are other signs, and then I know some of you, I see one or two who are Leo matriarchs as well. So you understand where that's coming from. And we're a work in progress, constantly working and turning our energies inward so that we can not hurt one another's feelings. That's the goal, is to accomplish that which we are sent to do. And we're also sent to be open to one another as well. We're sent to be open to one another as well, and to assist one another, like our prophet said in the Circle 7. So when you're offended by something, or I like what it says here too. When you're offended by something, you have a responsibility to speak directly to the Moorish American who you feel has done something. That takes some work, but all of us are being called outside of our comfort zone. If you really want to know the truth about what's going on, everyone is being called outside. It's comfortable to just chill and relax and sleep. But waking up is something else. All of us are having to do things that we didn't have to do it before in our sleep. We didn't do it because we weren't comfortable, or we were like, that's just not me. But now it's not just about us, it's about everyone, it's about all, it's about the all, the nation, the government. That does not stop no matter what. The Albion Christian colonizing occupiers, former occupiers, because from our perspective, they're not even here anymore. We're governing. But no matter what happened, they were still right back up there in our faces, so to speak. We have to be the same way about this government, and about this land, and about our estate, and about one another. We have to be that way about one another. It says here in verse 6 of chapter 30, and Justice Wilson, thank you for bringing this to our awareness once again. I have it here in front of me. I keep my koran here when I'm doing sharing sessions for this very reason. Verse 6 says, he openeth not his ear unto slander. The faults and the failings of men give a pain to his heart. If someone picks up the phone, even if it's another Moor, no matter who it is, and they're slandering your brothers and sisters, you should be the first one to say, why are you slandering them? Or, I don't want to hear that. Because if they call you and they're slandering other people, you know, trust and know that they will call other people and slander you. And that's not nobility. That is not nobility. That's not how we do things. That's not nobility. We are better than that. God is better than that. We're better than that. We're stronger than that. And I don't want anybody dumping a bunch of garbage in my ear about my brothers and sisters. Even my brothers and sisters who sometimes they're, they can, all of us know at least one dirty more, or more that we think is, that we know by what they manifest that they're not honest. We all know at least one. But there's only so much you're going to say about that before the noble more will stop you and say, well, wait a minute, I know they're not perfect. They're not manifesting perfectly, but that's still our brother and sister. That's still our brother and sister. Not to mention those who have noble intentions for our nation. We're most certainly not going to allow anyone to badmouth them. That happens a little bit on social media where, Moors will start, some will use social media and that keyboard, to lodge a campaign against someone that they're upset with. But I'm so glad, because I've run into a few of those while I was out there watching their posts, and it never fails. It never fails that there's going to be some Moors out there who will say, you cannot talk about my brother and sister like that. That's why I love our nation so much. It's because there's always going to be many Moors who will say, that does not belong on social media. You're not going to talk about my brother and sister like that. That's why I love our nation so much. Because many of us will say that. And then there are many of us who will see that stuff and just keep scrolling. Because we're like, okay, they haven't grown yet. They're still out there on social media doing whatever. They have not grown into their nobility yet, so we'll just come back and holler at them later. We're better than that. Our nation is better than that. Yes, we're going to go through some things. Yes, we're going to go through some things together. But our nation and our heirs deserve better than that. Our nation and our heirs deserve better than that. I'll say it again because it's a spell. Our nation, our government, and our heirs deserve better than that, than going out there and dogging and bad-mouthing one another. Just imagine someone doing that to the heir that you love the most. Some of us can take it. Some of us have very thick skin. But then there are some new Moors who may come in that don't have that are watching that happen, and you may put them on pause for a minute until they realize that that's not all Moors do that. We're better than that. Matriarchs, we're better than that. Matriarchs, we are better than that. I'll say it once more. Matriarchs, we're better than that. We can do better than that. And we're where all of this started, so we have to be where all of the newness starts. This is where the nation comes from, the matriarch. And I will say this on the record, for the record, and letting the record show, I am with it. Our matriarchs, we're so strong together. Now, that's not taking away from the nobles, and strong nobles know that when matriarchs start talking like this, that we're not excluding them. But matriarchs, we got this already. It's a wrap already, because the matriarchs actually recognize one another as sisters and matriarchs, and each of us being as sovereign as the other. No one has to be the leader. We're all the leader of ourselves. And then we just assist one another along the way. I'm with it, and all who want to accept that opportunity, of that growth opportunity for us sticking together no matter what, holla. Let's make that commitment to one another. That no matter what, we're going to stay together. We're going to stick together. No matter what, our nation will grow. And the thing is, if we decide that we don't want to stick together, the ancestors will simply replace us with some heirs who do, who can show us how to do it. And then we'll just sit in the back while they show us what unity looks like. And I'm not willing to let anyone take my opportunity to grow. I'm not. Because it's mine. Just like my estate is mine. And just like your estate is yours. I'm not going to let anyone take that just because my mind is not grown enough to the point where I can't get along with my brothers and sisters. I'm not willing to give up that easy. In fact, not at all. And I'm grateful that there are many, many more who feel the same way. We're committed to the nation, committed to the government, committed to the law, committed to one another, because we're all of that. And, if you should happen to something happens in if you should happen to get your feelings hurt and you need to sit out for a minute, just take the time you need to sit out for a minute. And sitting out just means getting quiet and going within, which we do anyway. And then get back up. Come on back in and let's get this work done. Our heirs are dependent on us until they can depend on themselves. And the only way they're going to be able to know to depend on themselves is if they see us doing it and still staying together and sticking together. We have to. There's no one that's qualified to govern our vast estate but us, as we can see. The actors have been acting and attempting to do so unsuccessfully. It's our turn. Are we willing to commit to one another first? Because when we commit to one another that way, it makes working together so much easier. We have to work together. We have to. I'm committed. I don't know about you all, but I'm committed. But I can feel it. I can sense that you are. No matter what, nothing is going to tear us apart. Nothing. We had all of that division and divisive energy between us in our sleep. We had that in our sleep. And many of us learned how to do that, to divide and conquer. But that's not what we do here. That's not how we roll. And the only way for us to continue to unify, which we will do, is to stay together, stick together, work through our differences, work it out, work it out, work it out. Love one another and love our nation enough to work it out. And if someone is abrasive and they kind of grind your gears a little bit or interrupt your frequency a little bit, just, do what you have to do to, do that matrix move and, get away from that long enough for you to be able to come back together and work. So that when the work calls for you to be around that person, that you can do it. Because I know one thing about the ancestors, I've seen this with my own two eyes. When we focus on the work and we focus on honoring our foremothers and forefathers, the ancestors will put people around us that will assist us energetically. So that the manifestations where the nation building is concerned are easier. I'm seeing it with my own two eyes, and then if there are some who are coming with some colonized thinking and colonized corporate actions, then the ancestors will make it so that that it doesn't hamper the work. So I've learned to leave that up to the ancestors. They've already proven that the work will continue no matter what's going on between us. So it's up to us to make sure that what's going on between us is conducive to us wanting to be together and wanting to work together and being committed to our heirs and to our nation, to our government, and to the law on this estate. We are all law. We are our law. I love chapter 30. And I can assure you that if someone picks up the phone and they call me and they're talking about you, and they're slandering you, attempting to slander you, I will be the first to tell them, nope, I'm not going to let you do that. If there's an issue, that's one thing where the law is concerned. If a Moor is breaking the law or skirting the line or there's an issue, that's one thing. But slander? No. That's not happening. It's not going to happen. Because that energy attracts other types of energy that I'm not willing to allow. I'm not. Are we perfect in those processes? No, not yet. We're getting there, but not yet. We just keep working at it. Keep working at it. Have we been perfect in the past? Nope. But we're going to keep working at it. So we have about 19 more minutes. Are there any Islam? Are there any questions, comments about dealing with one another or about the best ways to clear energy? I would encourage you to have a birth chart reading so that your birth chart can tell you some things to watch so that when you feel a certain way, you know to stop and pay attention to what you're feeling so that you can treat with yourself first about that. So that you can treat with yourself first about that. Because we talk about treaties all the time. The very first treaty is with yourself. That's the very first treaty. Treat yourself well. And treating yourself well means when you feel negative energy, look within and see where's that negative energy coming from within me so I'll know how to recognize it. And then how I will deal with myself and that energy first before I bring that out to someone, before it manifests outwardly. I know when I first came into this information, knowing who we are, I was fortunate because I had grown up in church, and so I knew not to be so rosy-eyed about it that I did not expect for people to offend. And sure enough, the more I demonstrated and I started sharing my demonstrations on social media, you talking about criticisms and just downright nastiness coming. I can tell you anytime you start demonstrating your nationality, some nastiness is going to come. And some of it's going to come from people who have L and J. I mean, some really talk really bad, and some were saying that's not what our prophets wanted us to do. But they couldn't prove what they were saying. They just skewed the interpretation of something that our prophet said. We honor our prophet. So just know that. And maybe that's the point of what I'm saying is that some of you are about to demonstrate boldly, and some already have been demonstrating boldly, and you're taking there's some that are talking pretty bad about you in your kinship line and otherwise. That happens over here sometimes. But we can't stop governing because of that. Fortunately, the ancestors have insulated me in terms of a lot of that stuff that's out there, social media, et cetera. The Albions managed to, the foreigners will bring their little criticisms and things that are not law-based to you. Like you have to lock the call because they're coming in and they're calling you names and casting aspersions and all of that worthless crap that means nothing. That to me is bubblegum stuff. Bubblegum stuff. It's nothing. That's nothing. They're not you. They're not the Moors. They're not the Moors. It means something coming from the Moors. Doesn't mean anything coming from there. It's actually a little bit on the hilarious side, but I try not to laugh too hard so people don't misconstrue my laughter. But I know they're doing that because they can't do anything else. My concern is us, the Moors. It's all about the Moors. It's all about nation building. It's all about our government. It's all about one another and our unity and keeping our unity and maintaining our unity, maintaining our government, our oneness that we've had since time immemorial. Because we were even one in our sleep. That's why a lot of that stuff didn't feel right to most of us. Even in those corporate settings where it was dog eat dog literally, almost. Even then, we weren't willing to do just any old thing, and we were not going to cut throats. How much more over here, where we are the law and we are the government? We're never going to do that over here. It's all about us and our unity, and it's going to stay that. And the thing is, those who come with ill intentions, the ancestors know exactly what to do about that. We don't even have to worry about it as long as we're demonstrating our nationality and doing what our ancestors have called us here to do. When we're about our ancestors' business, you best to know that they're going to take care of our business. So while you're demonstrating and governing your own affairs and networking and staying in tune with your nation and your government, you don't even have to worry about quote unquote dirty Moors and dirty, and foreign occupiers. Just keep doing what you're doing. And that's firsthand right there. That's firsthand. And I know a lot of you have been through those things too, so you know what I'm talking about. But we're committed to our nation and our government, all of us. So with that, are there any other questions, comments, anything that we need to discuss? We have about, I think we're right at the 2-hour mark.
Islam?
Islam.
I just want to see the brother Willie Smith want to say anything. I think he's about ready to claim his nationality.
Is he here? Can you hear him?
Brother Smith.
He might be saying something. Hopefully he's not muted. If Justice Wilson, you know what to do with regard to assisting him with that, correct?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I just thought I heard him earlier trying to say something, but he never did. So
Okay.
Well, take care.
He's not. Yeah. Islam. He's Islam. Appreciate that, Justice Wilson. That is about all we have this week. We want to continue unifying, continue standing. Right now, as we all know, Mercury is in retrograde, and so some are feeling energies that are having an effect on them in terms of that pull of the retrograde, and that depends on, and I think to a degree, all of us feel it. It just depends on which, where you are on the timeline. But again, right now we're being prepared, and we're actually being given the growth opportunity to show that we will continue governing no matter what. Even through all that is going on our land, which is all good because it's all in our favor. All of it is growth for us. But even with what's going on in, with Mercury being in retrograde, we honor Mercury as well, knowing that it does mean that we go within, but government it continues, it goes on. It definitely goes on. We will continue. And having said that, we will pause the call and start back up again. Tomorrow we have our call at its regular time. Tomorrow's Thursday, October 15th. And our call is at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard, 4 p.m. Pacific, where we will continue talking about the unfoldment of the land piece that we've been talking about recently. We started that conversation on Sunday, and how that ties in with all that we're doing where government is concerned. Because that we were talking about those who have had land in their families, quote unquote families, where your grandmother may have had acreage, or your grandfather, or somewhere along the line your parents had land, and that land somehow got taken, or presumably taken, because we know it wasn't taken. So we're having that conversation on manifesting and putting lawful documents on the public record with regard to that work together with our sovereign status and the other nations here on our land that have land already, because there are several. And when we connect with our brothers and sisters, it's going to further validate for us, because we don't need validation outside of us, but it's going to validate further for us that we are the heirs to the land. So we want to get that out on the public record as soon as possible. And the best way, so we're discussing the best ways to do that. So if you have not heard the call from this past Sunday, please listen in to that one. It is posted on YouTube for you to hear. And with that, we say grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, Moorish Americans. Peace and grand rising.